You might not be shocked to learn that I think that the content that I produce every day is absolutely amazing. And you might be, and especially the morning show. I think this is the best show every day, even though my co-hosts are absolutely incredible. But there's so much more that goes into the preparation for the show. There's so much more density of content on this morning show. And anyway, but here's what I'm trying to say. I don't often say this to you on my morning show, but this is one of those ones where you need to stay to the very end. Okay, there's so much content in here. If you're interested in the stock market, if you're interested in the economy, you're interested in Tesla, believe me, you want to hang in there to the end today. All right, let's jump right into it here. First of all, don't you hate it when your team has like huge momentum? I mean, it is the just ended the baseball season. We've just started the basketball season. We got the football season mid-season. I mean, you're probably watching one of those, right? Not to mention football or, the soccer thing. Anyway, so your team has got amazing momentum, and then there's this subtle shift due to a single play. Well, this morning we have the subtle shift. Well, and it's the market's mojo has been interrupted. Tesla's mojo has been interrupted. Tesla's holding up pretty well, and so is the market. Actually, it could be a lot worse. Let's break down the news now, because you're probably wondering, what the heck? Well, most Tesla headlines today, as I look through hundreds of headlines, as you know, in the first hour, they're about Norway's sovereign wealth fund saying no to Elon's pay package, which is a big nothing burger. There might be 5% of traders who think that matters this morning because they're not paying attention. But all the headlines, they see the headlines. Anyway, but there are two issues that are important. We'll cover those in a minute. Having said that, what happened overnight to kill the rally into the all-time highs? Well, horrific numbers out of China. 61,000 for the month. No, that isn't just internal sales in China. That is the total that were shipped in the month of October. And that's domestic and that's everything. This might have been within the expectations of some, but it certainly wasn't within my expectation. And that means that my hope, my thought, my idea that Tesla might get to 500,000 in the fourth quarter, never mind. Now, I would have been way among the most optimistic in terms of betting on 500,000. Brian Wang and I, of course, the optimists, were thinking that. But I'm thinking now we could be under 400,000 units. We'll see what happens in November and December for China, but China is going to control this particular quarter. So I think that takes $10 out of the stock right there. So if we went down from 465 to 455, there you go. There's your reason. The good news is that these one-time items tend to go away, and energy should actually be saving grace. So I think we're still going to beat the 50 cents from last quarter, maybe handily. It might be 65, which is what everybody was betting, because there's also all those one-time items that aren't going to happen. Anyway, add to that bad news about China that the Mag 7 is getting hammered this morning for basically no reason. Palantir is getting hammered this reason for basically no reason. They beat top and bottom. They gave increased guidance for the fourth quarter. Some people said, oh, but their guidance for 2026 wasn't what we were expecting. So it was one of those excuses, maybe, with the Mag 7 and the other tech stocks being, way, way, way up. And people are like, well, okay, there's an excuse. I'll take a little bit off the top. All right. How about this? Opinions on X about Tesla's full self-driving version 14.1.5 for the Cybertruck are overwhelmingly positive, with viewers describing it as mind-blowing, insane, and a massive improvement over previous versions. Early testers, including influencers like Tim Does, TIMDOES, and Tesla owners SV, highlight the confidence in complex urban driving, flawless parking, and zero interventions during extended tests. And Chuck Cook, I watched a number of his, unbelievable. The rollout excitement is palpable, with many expressing anticipation for wider release and implications for future Tesla products like the Cybercab. No, not one. No major criticisms. That's really unusual. Mario Nawfal has this morning. Baron Capital backs Elon's 2025 CEO Performance Award. Baron Capital just went all in for Elon's proposed numbers, saying embodies the accountability, performance, and alignment that built Tesla's empire. The firm praised the plan for ensuring that shareholders win first, while praising and crediting Elon at the same time, referring to him as Tesla's most valuable assets. Now, Ron Barron, no shock. But he says Tesla's bonus contract with Elon has been written to achieve an objective to get robotaxi and Optimus robots to scale. If successful, Tesla could earn 400 billion per year could earn 400 billion. That'd be 4 apples. Well, about 3 apples now, little over 3 apples in billion per year adjusted EBITDA for an extended period. By 2035, he says that could produce a market capitalization for Tesla of over 8 trillion, which is what Elon is shooting for. We believe Elon is not only perhaps the most extraordinary engineer on our planet, but an unusually competent business person. That's putting it mildly. In other words, if you want the stock to soar, better keep the guy who literally sends cars into space. Sawyer Merritt says this: Tesla has appointed a country head in India. Some says, and that would be a guy who was here we go. The company's hired Sharad Agarwal, who previously led Lamborghini India, to head local operations. Agarwal starts this week. Now, some think that the last 5 years of ownership of Tesla stock has been kind of meh. But it's up 255% in the last 5 years. So if it only went up 255% in the next 5 years, we'd be at 1650 in 2031. And you might be disappointed from 500, but not all stocks go up 4x in 5 years. How about the last year? We're only up 90% in the last 12 months. If we do that again, we would be at 885 by the end of next year. That would be pretty darn good. It would be half of my expectations, but it would be right in the middle of some other very big bulls' expectations. So, yeah, I think maybe Tesla's doing okay. Elon Musk says that SpaceX will lean in big on the moon. And people are going, what? What happened to Mars? Well, all of a sudden, Elon is recognizing that there may be more opportunities on the moon than he thought. I'm not sure that this will slow down Mars, but interesting no matter what. This is Randy Kirk. Please buy the book. We need many, many, many more sales. Of course we do. We're hoping to sell 100,000. You know that's my goal. I know that's an optimistic goal. The best I think I've ever done was about 21,000, which was when Friday isn't payday. But 100,000 would make me a very happy old guy. So help me out. Your one book really will matter, even if you never read it. I did raise the price on the Kindle to $3.99, so I know $2.99 would have been easier as a gift, but $3.99, come on. So what about markets being down pretty hard this morning? But they are recovering, at least last time I checked, and we'll find out in a minute whether that's still true. Well, that mojo shift started with Powell last week, spooking the markets about the next cut in December. And while most think that this is still happening, the betting markets are now down to around 70%. We have the continuing government shutdown. That's not good. We have the bleak forecast on today's elections, especially the New York debacle. It's worse than a debacle. That's putting it mildly. And anyway, these things are starting to take a little bit of the wind out of Mr. Market's sails. And then along comes Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley. Did they get together at dinner last night and decide to announce this? They're both predicting sell-offs in the market up to 20% during the next 12 months. And then guess what? The market says, man. So markets are down. We'll see what it looks like as the day progresses. Maybe it's just momentary, but it's a little hard to guess. Tomorrow has the ISM and S&P services reports and also the ADP employment numbers. And this could either increase or decrease this kind of new shift in momentum. We had the ISM and S&P manufacturing reports yesterday. We'll talk about those in a minute. Anyway, and please, tomorrow morning when the ADP report comes out, please remember a zero is okay. Seriously. Now, the market may not agree. We might even be down 10,000. That's fine. Now, if we're down 20,000, that might be something to pay attention to. We might be up 20, 30, 40,000, but even a zero or down 10 is fine in the current market. As I've explained it before, ask Grok why zero would be fine. But the market may not agree. Believe me, if it's zero tomorrow morning or even up 10 or down 10, the market might not like that. The GDP now we go back to the GDP here. The GDP now model estimate for GDP growth, seasonally adjusted annual rate, in the third quarter is sitting at 4%. 4%. That's a big number. After yesterday morning's manufacturing ISM report on business from the Institute of Supply Management, it increased it to 4%. The nowcast on third quarter real gross private domestic investment growth increased from 4.4% to 4.6%. So that's the good news. But I had Grok analyze the credibility of those GDP numbers, the GDP now numbers, and it turns out they're always within about 0.5. Not always, but almost always within 0.5. So if we get an actual 4% print with GDP numbers come out, that would be very stimulative to the markets. Well, the first GDP numbers did come out, and they came out about 3.1, which is less, of course, than GDP now, and less by more than 0.5%. However, this is their first print. They do three, one at the end of November, one at the end of December, which is the final. I'm going to guess, based on what I've read and the analysis that Grok did, that we're going to move closer to that 4%, but I doubt if we'll cross over 4%. Real GDP growth increased at a seasonally adjusted rate of 3.1%, down from the 3.8% in quarter two, represents a slowdown from prior forecasts, which had anticipated about 3.3%, but still signals, it says moderate economic resilience. Are you kidding me? 3.1, everybody be thrilled to get 3% a year. Been around 2% for the last, I think, 20. I don't know, I have to look that up. Anyway, economic activity in the manufacturing sector contracted in October for the eighth consecutive month, according to the ISM, following a 2-month expansion. So for the eighth consecutive month, following a 2-month expansion, preceded by 26 straight months of contraction. So, manufacturing, I've told you, has been in recession now for 3 years. A manufacturing PMI above 42.3% over a period of time generally indicates an expansion of the overall economy. Therefore, the October PMI indicates overall economy grew for the 66th straight month after contracting in April 2020. And so they're figuring it at about 1.8%. So that's what they're figuring. So we're way above that, which is not unusual. I asked Grok why the S&P and the ISM end up so differently from one another all the time. And they said that while slight differences in the size of companies and the specific industries that they focus on, the difference may just come down to the questions and how they're asked. What about the IMS estimate that the GDP would be growing at 1.8 compared to the BEA estimate at 3.1 and GDP now at 4.0? Grok says that the IMS number is very manufacturing focused, and manufacturing only represents 10% of the total economy. And while it's a useful gauge, the one that's used by the Fed as part of their analysis is not, and the Fed does use the ISM number as part of their analysis. It's not very likely to be the best estimate. Well, there's a lot of pessimism among the pundits for quarter four with estimates of only 1.3 to 2% growth. Now, remember, 2% growth would be fine. The GDP now figures will be out on Thursday, but they're late in the morning, so I'll be reporting those either Thursday night or Friday morning. Anyway, that'll give us our first look at quarter four from the GDP now perspective. The POTUS has increased his rating this morning. He was sitting at 45 for like a week and a half. He's back up to 47% this morning. And trueflation is now flattening out at this much higher number. So we've got trueflation at 2.67 on the overnights, goods at 2.88, core at 2.43, services at 2.57, and the PCE at 2.72. Again, that's while it's up from where it was a couple of weeks ago, it is now flattening out at that new higher number. All right, Tesla is continuing to recover nicely this morning. We're back up to $458 a share, 458.69, which is only down 2%, 2.07% at this point. It was down all the way to 450 at one point, maybe even lower. The Dow Jones is recovered nicely also, only down 0.22%. NASDAQ only down 0.9. It was down 1.5%. And the S&P only 0.55, and it was well over 1. So yeah, everything's recovering. I don't know if there's new news or whether it's just like, well, maybe that Palantir thing was overblown and maybe everything's just going to be fine. Anyway, we'll see what happens the rest of the day. Now, Apple, oh no, I'm sorry. So the Magnificent Seven continues all down. At this point, NVIDIA, for instance, is down 2.5, even as Tesla is only down 2.05. The VIX went all the way up to 19. It is also coming back down now at 18.28, which is, kind of in the middle ground there. Not very bullish or bearish at that level. And then we've got the Cathie Woods, which got beaten up pretty good early and are also recovering. All right, let's go on to the bond market. The bond market this morning, we have got, I need to find a way to get to that. I didn't set it up right. Okay, here we go. Bonds are now down 2.4%. Oh, good. 2.4 basis points. Did I say percent? We're down to 4.083. We've seen that number a couple of days ago, so I know it needs to go down a lot more. We have got the oil market, same thing, 60.52. It's down 53 cents, but it was up. Natural gas, though, down 1.36. Glad to see that at $4.20. These come down a lot more. Are you ready? Gold down $62.40 at $3,952. Silver down more than that, down 2.47 at 46.87. And copper, it turns out that mine in Chile is starting to get itself back in it's doing okay. It's back up to about 75%, but it'll take another 2 years to get back to 100%. But copper has fallen back under $5 at 4.96. We've got the dollar gaining and gaining and gaining. It has broken through that 100 level in the small basket of currencies, and most people are now thinking the dollar will continue higher, especially depending on what's going to happen with that Fed cut in December. So anyway, dollar up. Bitcoin continues down. Don't know. Maybe we're going to go test 9,900. 99,000. We're at 104,249 down 2,379. There is a floor at 99,000, and maybe it's going to have to test it before it can move back up again. Ethereum down 1.14% this morning, not quite as much as Bitcoin. And there you go. Those are the numbers. Later today, we will definitely have, it's Nicholas Gibbs, followed by Brian White. Last night's Brian White show I don't know. Maybe the subject matter wasn't that interesting to you. We were taking a look at, do you know that you have to get 30 million rides a day if you've got 1 million cabs out there. If Elon's right, we get 1 million cabs, you got to get 30 million rides a day in the United States. If that's 1 million cabs in the United States, well, you got to get them worldwide if it's 1 million worldwide. But in any case, that's a lot of butts in seats. Okay. Well, so Brian and I were spending yesterday and today figuring out, is this possible? So it's one thing to make them. Maybe you can make those 1 million cabs, but can you fill them every single day? And then the next year, or you go to 2 million. The job becomes harder. So how is that going to work? What's going to happen to get that many folks to take those cab rides every day? And we spent 2 days on this. So last night's numbers were pathetic, and maybe tonight's will be pathetic too. But if you're interested in that, there's the card. And if you're not interested in that, you should be. This is like the number one driver of the stock. And so I think you'd be curious and interested to know what in the world are we going to do to get people to take that many rides in those taxis. That's all I got for you right now. You want to just take Tesla one more time, just real quick. We'll look here and we'll go just down a tad from where we were a minute ago, down 2.26. We were only down 2.05. So falling off a little bit, and it looks like almost across the board. You can see everything went up and then it's ticking down again. That's kind of a normal pattern, not unexpected. All right, it's Randy Kirk. It's been great talking to you.